Hi, I'm Wayne Hartman, coach advocate at NXT-9, and in the next 13 minutes, I'm going to show you how to review the X-ray. Once it's been completed by the CEO and his or her team, it's time for you to review it, and I'm going to take you through that process. So let's get started. It's a reasonably straightforward exercise. You'll go to your dashboard and go to the coach review section, and you should see the X-ray waiting for you. Ready for your review. You click on the button and you view X-ray, and now you can actually see what the X-ray actually contains. So this is how I go about debriefing it. And I guess you'll develop your own style as you go forward. There isn't one particular sequence to use, but basically what you're trying to do in this exercise is work out what is this X-ray actually saying to you, and what is it suggesting that the next steps are for this business. And so what I do is I start out by looking at the business maturity index and I say, okay, 37%. Where does that stack rank in where the business actually is in its life cycle? So typically, startups come out around about 20%. They've done a little bit of business building, but not a hell of a lot. Businesses that are at late stage growth are typically around about 70%. I most normally see businesses in the 40 to 50 range. This one is at 37%. So it's in the early stages of growing their business and business building. So I should expect that they've got quite a lot of work to do. And when I go and have a look at the spider graph, the first thing I spot is that strategy is pretty low. Basically, strategy is just about naught, and they should be at a 4. So there's actually a big gap here. So that one is going to jump out straight away. So I'm already think strategy. Execution is low, so most likely that is also going to feature in the recommendations. Go and have a look here at people. 2, a little bit below my rule of thumb of 2.5 gets you a workable solution. Bearing in mind these guys want to be 4, but they're actually 2, and board and advisors 1.7. That's lowish. Sales is 2. Operations a little bit more than 2. Finance 1.5. So that's a little on the low side. I'm going to be looking out when I get to that section to make sure they're managing cash properly so they don't get into a crisis. Capital, on the other hand, looks pretty good at 4.36. So these guys have obviously been fiddling around with fundraising in the last little while. As usual, their gut score is mostly bigger than where they are. So that's pretty normal. So then I basically go straight away to the end and I go and have a look at what the recommendations are actually saying, the top 10. You can go and have a look through each of the top 40, which is basically the top 5 for each of the 8 different disciplines. But I go straight to the top 10 and I have a look at this and see what it's saying. Okay, so there's a market crisis, there's an inner circle dynamic issue, and a business model crisis. That's 3 crises. That's not par for the course. Usually you'll find there might be one, and there are a few other ones that could pop up, as well. They could have a cash flow crisis. At least they don't have that. But basically, they've got a market crisis. You can see that little triangle there suggests that there's a crisis brewing over there. Okay, so the top 3 are the crises, and then it goes into a collection on strategy. The business model is obviously at the heart of it. Their positioning isn't clear. Their focus on maximizing the core isn't there. The identification of the niche customer isn't there. And their competitive environment's not there. So there's some fundamentals here. So this would suggest to me straight away that one of the interventions that needs to happen is a strategy workshop. Then the next 3 are execution. And you can see, apart from the crises at the top, strategy and execution, there's no place in the top 10 for anything else. So again, what the X-ray is saying, you need to fix these things before you go and do the others. So that's what this top 10 does for you. So now I've got a feel for what those top 10 are. And now I'll go and have a look at the team divergence just to get a feel for did they answer these questions in a logical fashion? And is there any divergence that will cause a crisis? You'll see their X's over here. This suggests that none of these answers are going to distort the X-ray, so you can quite safely go ahead just like it is. If you wanted to, and just to illustrate how you actually make adjustments, were there to be a divergence problem over here, you might say, for example, here that demo 5's answer for strategy is actually a problem, and you wanted to maybe take that out of the scores that make up the X-ray recommendations. You can go to the Edit X-ray Respondents button, and you can go to Demo 5, and you can toggle their answers for strategy on and off. Okay, in this case, we don't need to do that. And if you want to, you can actually have a look through what the divergence looks like for each section underneath that as well. So you can go and have a look at the elements and the subdisciplines that make up strategy, and you can see what the divergence looked like there as well. The red highlights actually point you to where there is a variance. So you can have a look for that. But generally, there's lots of green over here. And again, there's nothing that causes a problem. So let's go and put that back on overall. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the X-ray itself, and we're going to edit the recommendations. Now, this allows you as the coach to add your flavor to this X-ray as well, because there are going to be times where you understand this business better than the X-ray does, because either they didn't answer the questions entirely accurately, or you know other things that suggest that the priorities need to shift a little bit. So, for example, over here, when we have a look, clearly, this is for strategy. So now what we do is we work through each of the disciplines one by one. So we start with strategy. We're going to work through each discipline, and then we're going to go and do the overall ranking. So we go and have a look here at these. Clearly, the market crisis needs to be at the top, and clear positioning comes next. Focus on maximizing the core. Business model crisis. I would move that one up. Okay, so you can actually move the priorities, and I simply do that because I group the crises at the top straight away, so that they'll pop up at the in the final recommendations as well. Niche customer focus. Okay, so those all look reasonable. What I can then do is go and put my comments in if I want to. You can go and see what the survey response was, and you can make a recommendation if you want to. I tend not to do it here, because you then end up tempted to make comments for 40 different recommendations, and I rather focus them on the top 10. By not making comments on the rest, I focus the attention on the top 10. So I don't make those comments here, but you could if you wanted to. If you saw something that was maybe not going to end up in the top 10, but you still wanted to make a comment on it, you could do that here. So that's strategy, and then you go through execution. Okay, this one usually pops up at the top. Focus on lead measures, the 2 scoreboards, and then the org structure. Nothing surprising there. That's no reason to change that. Then we go and have a look at the people side. The inner circle dynamic pops to the top because it's a potential crisis. Build the leadership team, define leadership and culture. Build it, define. Okay. I usually find this one, if this one appears defining the company culture, I usually move it up towards the top, because usually you define the company culture before you go and define the leadership culture and style. So I do that, and in building. Those are now in a logical, coherent order that lines up with how you would normally execute them. And then the same thing would happen for the rest. It's going to have a look at sales and marketing. Okay. Sales performance management, a clear marketing strategy. Okay, so what I usually do here is go and have a look at the relative scores there. They're two, and by the way, that's important. One isn't necessarily more important than the other, just based on the terminology. I should have actually said earlier, you go and check where they are score-wise as well. And this one over here, the marketing strategy, they're both at level 2. They're both at level 2, then my inclination is to go and put this one further up towards the top. Get the strategy in place first before you nail the execution. So basically you can see what I'm doing here is I'm systematically going through them, applying some logic, making sure they're in an order that facilitates working from the top priority down to number 5 and then 2. So once we've done all of those, I then go and move to the overall ranking. I can go to the next one over here and go to the overall ranking. And now I have a look at these. So now all of a sudden, the inner circle dynamics at the top, the market crisis is there, the business model crisis is there. Okay, okay. Let's just go and put this in the overall. Okay, there's the top 10. Now you can see what the ones are that are just bubbling under as well. Sometimes I look down here to see, is there something here that I think should break into the top 10? Basically what we're saying here is get the execution done and the strategy done. So that's probably the good place to start. I lean in the direction of the people things, but first step strategy, second step execution. So let's get that going first. And we always are going to circle back. And in any case, in the quarter 1 of 2023, we're going to have the ability to update these recommendations. And so there's always going to be a top 10 anyway. So let's focus on those as the top 10 first. So that is neat and tidy. So then we'll just save that. So now the recommendations are actually saved. And there we go. And we've now can go back to the recommendations and have a look at them. And you can see over here, okay, those are still the same. Happy with that. These are the top 10 that we're actually going to go with. And now I can release this back to the, to the business. And I've just realized here, this is my demo. In your version, there will be a button over here to send the X-ray to the CEO. So you just click on that button and it will go off to the CEO. The next step after that, of course, is you will then debrief it. So that is basically how you review the X-ray. It's not a complicated exercise. Just use your experience and judgment to make sure that what the X-ray is saying is relevant to the business that you're talking about. I usually find I don't need to make many changes to what the X-ray recommends. It's usually pretty accurate, but where there's a tweak needed, I do that. And then, as I said, just send it off to the CEO. Thank you for watching this video. And as usual, if you want to get some additional support, you can ask for that support via the WhatsApp community group, or you can book a time to talk to me using the link that you see on the screen, and that link will have automated one at the end of this video that you can click on to. Thank you.